Hello, everybody. We are truly delighted to have you all here. I'm Sviatoslav Sviatenko, the founder of a venture building program called Mission Possible, and we have quite productive couple of hours in front of us for today. I will slightly guide you all through the agendas that we have. We'll present a little bit information about the Mission Possible, what we do as a program. Then we'll have two separate speeches from YC alumni. Yaroslav Azhnyuk, the founder of PetCube, will tell about his experience and PetCube's experience within YC. And then we'll have Roman Sebastianov, who is the CEO and founder of Atomic, to share his impression of what YC gave them. At the end of the session today, we'll have a panel discussion with 4 more guests that will join us. We have quite an international team today for you. We'll have Yuri Zaremba, co-founder and CEO of AI SDR. We'll have Yuri Rifyak, the founder of UTeam. We'll have Stacy Pavlyshina, CEO and founder of Atomic. And we also have Sven Wilderman, who is CTO and co-founder at Sunvivo. The overall goal of this event is to give you a little bit more information what YC is and basically how to get there. And we call the event Pathway to YC because we really expect, we wish everyone to submit their applications in a couple of days to YC and hopefully make it to the interview stage and to YC eventually, really. So our success for this event is, of course, your success. And if it happens that you will get to the program, please let us know. We'll celebrate it together. With this introduction, I will pass the floor to Dara Koval, who is our head of operations at Mission Possible, and she will tell a couple more words about the Mission Possible.
Hi, everyone. As Svat said, Mission Possible is the first venture builder in Ukraine. We focus on people with an entrepreneurial mindset who want to develop a startup ecosystem in Ukraine. We focus on people who have a pet project or have just started working full-time in a startup. And our main goal is to provide a launchpad, a platform for entrepreneurs to grow their startups, expand their network, and grow as leaders also. One of the most important things for us is that we have the opportunity to hold the program offline in the heart of Kyiv. We see great value in live communications and meetings and daily networking. So the program takes place in cooperative. It's a co-working, our partners, where cohort has an office, open spaces, and meeting rooms that help them create and build their startups. Structurally, our program consists of several tracks. The first one is our cooperation with Oxford University, Said Business School. They gave us access to 2 online programs, the Venture Creation Program and Venture Finance Program, which equipped our members with essential business and finance knowledge. We are really grateful to our partners for seeing the potential in Ukraine and being ready to join us in our mission. The second track is our pool of mentors and top startup ecosystem representatives in Ukraine and abroad. We currently have 41 mentors in our program with various expertise and experience. And we work with mentors in Q&A sessions and one-on-one sessions, and our participants can book these sessions during the week while they have a program. The third track is workshops and meetings with experts on various narrow topics, such as market research or legal aspects or financial models, or even, I don't know, launching a product on a product hunt. So we invite top industry experts to provide this information to our cohort. The fourth track is business breakfasts. Every week, we have a breakfast with the founders and top managers of successful Ukrainian businesses. Over a cup of coffee and breakfast, speakers talk about their experience, victories, failures, mistakes, learnings, and share this with our participants. The last but not least track is pitch days. We believe that pitching regularly can actually make a big effort to your startup, and therefore we often organize pitch days and invite representatives of venture capital funds, so our participants can get feedback from professionals and from the field. Also, in the first 4 months of our program, we held more than 60 events. We engaged more than 65 experts, and our mentors provided more than 100 one-on-one mentoring sessions. And looking at these numbers, I immediately think, wow, but more to be later, and that's not the end of our program. And if you want to discover more details, please visit our site and our social media accounts, so you can get further information about our program. Sviat?
Excellent, Dara. Thank you for this overview of Mission Possible. And of course, we are also grateful to our co-partners for the program, who are Western NIS Enterprise Fund and U Ventures. They support us from early days of the program, and this event also is in a proud partnership with them. I would add that YC is of course a role model for us. We learn from them, and it is also interesting for us to hear about the experience of founders who've been to YC, who experienced the YC firsthand. And in my opinion, YC, by capitalization of startups and by a lot of metrics, is basically the best global acceleration program. Couple of points regarding the navigation of event. So you are looking at us via YouTube, and we of course open to your questions. However, we would ask you to put the questions in comment box with your name, the affiliation, the startup that you are from, your position, and then the question. In such a way, we will be able to ask the question. I will be moderating the day for you today, and we'll be asking the questions to our guests that we have for tonight. So please add questions in comment box, and we'll be ready to start in a few moments. So Yaroslav, be prepared to jump in. And Yaroslav Vazhnyuk, again, the man who needs no introduction. He is co-founder and CEO of PetCube, as well as numerous other businesses that he is now launching. And we are happy to have Yaroslav with us to share his experience of participating in YC, being part of the community in its rather early days, if I may to say. So Yaroslav, the floor is yours. You will have 10 to 15 minutes for yourself, and then we'll jump with questions. Pleasure to have you here.
Good morning, Vietnam. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Welcome, everyone. I'll be happy to share my experience of going through Y Combinator with PetCube. I think we probably were the first Ukrainian company who got into the program in 2016, in winter 2016. I guess, I'll start with saying that back then we were pretty snobbish. I think probably that's the vice we still have, and that's the vice that many entrepreneurs actually have. But we were thinking that why would we need YC? We went through another accelerator before that called Hacks, which was specifically focused on hardware companies. PetCube was and is a hardware company. So we went through that program. We went through lots of difficulties. We started mass producing our devices. We had like $2 million in revenue. And finally, from our third or fourth application, we got accepted to Y Combinator, or we got invited to a YC interview, and we're like, okay, like now what? We already are making like $2 million in sales. We already raised over $1 million in investments at rather high valuations. So if we were to take the Y Combinator's 7% deal at what was like 150 or 125K back in the day, that would mean dilution for our existing investors. And like the dilution at the lower valuation that they've invested in at. And so we had all of these internal discussions, like should we even go for an interview? Our expectation, we decided to go for it, and our thinking was that, well, we will unlikely learn anything new in terms of advice because we've had so many mentors and advisors in another accelerator, and we are unlikely to get anything like business-wise from YC, but why we should go is probably because it will make our Series A fundraising easier. So that was the premise in which we like decided to go. We went through the interview, we got accepted. I remember very well as we got the phone call from YC and they said that we're accepted. We're very, very happy. Back then, we all three founders were already living in California. And the reality was nothing like we expected. It was completely opposite. So the most valuable piece of Y Combinator program that we got was actually advice. And our group partner was Michael Siebel, who's this legendary figure in YC, was the CEO of YC afterwards. And he recently announced that he is returning as a group partner. And Michael Siebel and Justin Kahn, so they are the guys who made a couple of companies, most of which were like unsuccessful, but one of them had a spin-off called Twitch. And Twitch then went on to be sold to Amazon for about $1 billion. And neither Michael nor Justin were even CEOs of Twitch. That was their third co-founder in the previous company called SocialCam. So Emmett was his name, and he was the one who persuaded them to actually work on Twitch, the video streaming service for gamers. And they were like, nah, Emmett, just like stop bothering us. Here are two engineers, and just like you have 3 months to make some MVP and do whatever you want, but we don't believe this will work. And that's how the Twitch started, which ended up being a billion-dollar company and even more influential at the current day. But their advice was super helpful. That was like the most important thing we got from YC is advice. The second most important thing was the community and the relationships with the other founders of YC companies. And only number three, I would say, our ability to raise capital and also attract talented employees, and just sort of overall the raised image of a company as a result of going through YC. So that was our experience, and companies oftentimes tell that their time at YC is the most intense time of their lives. They've never worked as hard either before or after YC as they did during YC, and I totally agree with that. My experience at Y Combinator was that every time, like once a week, we would have a conversation with our group partner. And we would come really inspired, like wanting to show off all the cool new ideas we're working on and all the progress and so on. And usually it was Michael, and he would just sit like looking at us, and like sometimes he would sort of interject, like, okay, so how does it make you more revenue? And that simple question just over and over and over again made us completely speechless, because suddenly we realized that so many things that we're obsessing about and like thinking, like going to conferences, deciding, which law firm to choose, all the stupid little decisions that startups have to make, they don't actually bring us closer to revenue, then they don't actually bring us closer to success. And we are spending our time being worried about completely wrong things. So that's a very practical example how this advice and constant sort of counseling, mentoring was useful. And it sounds silly, but we, even back in the day when chatbots and ChatGPT was not a thing, 2016, we were thinking that we should make a chatbot for Michael Siebel that would just work with any startup and would just ask one question: how does it increase your revenue? And that's pretty much all you need. So we've learned a couple of very basic truths from YC, and one of them is that after you build your product, the next goal is not to build the second product. The next goal is to build the product that sells your product. And that is a very powerful idea so YC revolves around this idea that your key goal is to launch your product as soon as possible. And I've seen so many companies that go into the program saying and thinking and believing they're launching in 9 months or 6 months or 2 years. And eventually they launch in like 6 weeks. And then they have another 6 weeks within the program to actually get some revenue and some early customers. And during demo day, they're showing you the hockey stick of their growth. And they're looking just amazingly great and like super investable company, and everyone wants them. And this happens over and over and over again, and it happened with us as well. We set some unachievable goal, like selling like 5,000 devices, something like that. So some reason I remember it had 5,000 devices by demo day, and we hit that goal. Like it was like magical. Like no one believed this was going to happen, but for some reason it happened. But we really worked super hard for all that time. Another thing they teach you almost religiously is be super careful with your time, super scrappy with your time. Meetings at YC last like 20 minutes, no longer than that. And they teach you to say no to all kinds of possible distractions and so on and so forth. So there are plenty of small anecdotes like that, but probably one thing that I'd like to sort of finish with before we get into the questions is the question I keep asking myself is, why is the YC program so successful? What are they doing differently? What is so special about the people there? What is so special about YC? Why are they such a phenomenon? Why are they like probably 2 orders of magnitude better than any other accelerator in the world in terms of the cumulative capitalization of the companies that went through the program? And I think it's, my favorite business saying that says that culture eats management for breakfast. It's this engineering culture that is embodied into YC by Paul Graham and 3 of other co-founders who started the program. Y Combinator, for those of you who don't know, is a term that comes from advanced mathematics and advanced computer science, and basically means a function that sort of creates other functions, or a program that creates other programs. And that was the original goal of YC, but the fact that they chose this name, it points to their deeply engineering ethos and culture. And from within, although it might not look as such, but Y Combinator is a software company. They are run by software. Software runs all the application process. They use like software everywhere on every step of the program, be it acceptance of new companies, be it their content marketing, all the materials they're doing, and so on, and how they're calculating how that is influencing the amount of new applicants to the program, be it within the program, tracking the success of different demo days, tracking the time, how their partners spend the time, and so on. So having this software-driven and sort of engineering, mathematically driven culture internally is, as I think, is one of the key success factors behind YC. And then also having very sort of smart approach to the people they work with, starting with which criteria they use to accept new people into the program. And Paul Graham famously, it gives a lot of credit to his wife, Jessica Livingston, who's also one of the YC co-founders, for being that sort of moral compass and people compass in terms of how they decided to or how they build the sort of rules and processes behind accepting new people into the program. But also it applies to YC partners as well. If you look at people you get to work with at Y Combinator, those are either people who have built and sold multi-billion-dollar companies, or people who have built products that all of us use. So like we work with Paul Buckhead. I'm not sure about the right way to pronounce his last name, but he's the guy who built Gmail. Another guy was the guy behind Yahoo Mail, was also one of the group partners. You have, people like Paul Graham, you have people like Justin Kahn, Michael Siebel, you have people like Sam Altman, and all of those are just incredibly talented, smart, accomplished individuals who are, what is most important, they are actual builders. They're not some bankers or VCs who are managing a lot of other people's money, but have not built anything by themselves. They are actual builders. And I think the combination of that sort of people culture, incredibly accomplished partners, and this engineering ethos is what drives YC and what makes it such a powerful program. I guess that's enough for an intro, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
We have a lot of questions, but I will start with mine and then proceed to guest questions. You touched briefly on the type of founders, the type of startups who are getting to YC, right? And it seems it's quite a diverse batch of entrepreneurs. You entered with 2 million revenues. We see there are some startups with idea stage, even with some traction, with founder market fit. Can you please elaborate a little bit? Who are your peers, who were your peers, and who are currently YC is looking for?
Yeah, I think that no one should be discouraged from applying to YC, even if you just had your idea like yesterday, and yesterday you decided you want to, go work on this new company of yours. You should feel free to apply to YC, because there are numerous cases of such companies being accepted to the program. YC actually emphasizes this, that a big percentage of the companies, I think somewhere between 25 and 50% of the companies who are getting accepted have not have their first revenue yet. And then, yes, there are companies which have millions of dollars of revenue and dozens of employees and so on, and they get accepted as well. As it comes to our batch, oh gosh, I mean, I don't remember all the successful companies, but there was this company called Embark that did like autonomy trucks. And I think at some point their valuation was like north of $7 billion. And they were in our batch, and they were just like a group of kids. Like we were kids, we were like 27-ish back then, but they were like literal kids. They were like 21, I think, from some Canadian university. But they were like incredibly driven, incredibly smart, and were just like following their success, and it's like, wow. Also, this company called Relativity Space, which makes 3D printers that print rocket engines and rockets. They've been also part of our batch. And I think they are a unicorn and have been hugely successful. Another company is called Boom Aerospace. and they're making a supersonic plane. And they're also, again, very successful, doing very well. For some reason, I remember these hardware companies a lot, but usually, well, because that's just sort of our play. But most of the companies in YC are sort of classic software companies. I think one thing that is important is that your team is technical. Sort of this whole startup thing became well, it's sort of in vogue. It's sort of fashionable to run a startup, and there are different people who are getting into that business, and that is great. But originally, deep below, the big idea behind most modern successful tech startups is that these are tech companies. These are companies that are using software and technology to offer some new value to the world. And because the fundamental cost of copying a piece of software from like one instance to a million other instances, the cost of that is fundamentally zero. And fundamental cost of distributing one instance of software to a million other instances is also zero. That is fundamental difference between software and anything that has to do with physical world. Because in physical world, you have cost of manufacturing, time of manufacturing, you have cost of shipping goods from wherever they are manufactured to wherever they are needed. You have time of that. Then if you're selling to end consumer, there's some cost of you putting the product on the shelf, and then again, time while consumer discovers it, and so on. So software is very different in that extent, and that's why it has become such a fundamentally successful model for this whole startup VC economy. So my point is, you better have a technical founder in your team when you're applying to YC. I feel, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like, and obviously there are exceptions, but I feel like teams who do not have technical founders have much lower chances of success. I guess that answers it. I don't know. Ask anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe to build on that as well about industries. So you've probably seen the new request for startups that was published by YC recently, and they, in a way, extend invitation to hardware, to military tech, to defense tech, to a large extent, saying that they are going back to the roots. What's your take on that? And also, is that the opportunity for Ukrainian startups, or it means more competition?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great web page. I recommend everyone just going and reading through it. It's Y Combinator RFS, Requests for Startups. Actually, we have this podcast which I sort of co-host, and we went through all of these requests and discussing them in detail. But obviously, there is an opportunity for Ukrainian companies, and there is an opportunity for companies from all over the world. YC is very open for sort of international founders. I think now they will require you to actually come in person and live on the campus during the program. And I'm not sure how well that will combine with the fact that at least male founders will have difficulties moving out of Ukraine. But YC has been known to make exceptions in the past, so I think exceptions are possible here. And obviously, one of 20 requests for startups that YC posted there as a request for defense technology. So definitely sort of a booming space in Ukraine, both literally and figuratively. I think that this is a sort of unfair advantage, as strange as it sounds. It's an unfair advantage of Ukrainians to start these defense tech companies, because we are now on the edge, and we are the frontier for the Western world and the Western civilization. And I am involved in a number of projects which deal with defense technology, And I'm also involved with a number of Western founders who come here trying to build in this space as well. And something that I'm observing is that, well, how do I put it politely? Like, they have very little clue about what is actually going on, what is actually needed. But it's not because, they're not smart. It is because it is still hard to build these cultural sort of bridges. And if you're an American who, spend their life in the US and has a very US-centric view of the world, and studied in great American university and so on, you probably know very little about Ukraine, and you probably don't have friends here, and you probably have a hard time, even if you're brave enough to come here, even if you don't think you'll get hit by a Russian rocket the moment you cross the border. It is hard for you first to establish connections and make friends with Ukrainians and so on. And second, after even you do that, find people who are actual, like, real deal, who are not full of BS, and understand what the real picture of the world is. And it was the same for me when I first came to the States. It took me years before I sort of learned, in a way, to find whom I can trust and find where do I see sort of a full picture versus where do I see just a part of the picture. So it's not surprised that so many Western founders have very difficult time understanding what is actually needed on a battlefield, what were the actual events happening, what's the actual demand, and so on and so on. So this creates for Ukrainian founders who can be integrated in the Western world, who, especially the ones who have some experience interacting with the Western business world, this creates a huge opportunity. And this opportunity, from one side, if you're Ukrainian, you should be super driven to do something that helps Ukraine on the battlefield, and in the long term, sort of creates Ukrainian capacity to withstand aggression and be someone no one wants to mess with. But also, and this also drives your team and also allows you to recruit great, driven, passionate people and so on. It's super important for a startup to have this sort of big vision and understanding why you're doing what you're doing and why you're, like, overtiming and pouring all your days and weekends and evenings into this. But then this also looks very attractive for a foreign investor, and your access to the knowledge of what is actually happening on the ground, the fact that you're Ukrainian, you can speak Ukrainian, you can talk to the soldiers and so on and so forth, gives you an unfair advantage to whatever foreign founder can come here. And it's obvious that the whole world will be sort of rearming over the next decade. And it's obvious that so many lessons will come from this war that Russia wages against Ukraine, and be it drones or anti-drone systems or communication systems or command and control systems or all kinds of new technologies being used here now. It will be needed around the world. And I think Ukrainians have very good chances of sort of setting up the trends for that future. So I think this is a huge, huge opportunity.
Yeah, so now we'll have a couple of questions from the audience. And we'll start from the ones that touch upon this very productive and intensive period at YC. The question is from Andrei. How did you combine running a Series A+ business with lots of customers and revenue with YC mentorship session and, I believe, all YC experience?
Great question. So actually, YC experience is a very light experience. It does not require you to participate in lots of events. It does not take a lot of your time for exactly that reason, that you have to spend all of your time running your company. So it's not like university where you have to, go to a lecture and listen and do the home assignment. The whole YC program is basically, you have this weekly dinner event, which happens on Tuesdays. And it's like 3 hours on Tuesday evening. Everyone comes to this big hall that's can fit like 300, maybe a couple hundred more hundreds of people. And the companies basically have dinner served, spend like maybe an hour just like eating and just mingling, talking to other founders, working or co-working, responding emails and so forth. And then a guest of a dinner shows up, and a guest is usually a founder of some super successful Silicon Valley company, whatever, Mark Zuckerberg, or some VC like whatever, a partner from Sequoia, or the founders of Airbnb, or Fitbit was one of our dinners. And that person usually speaks for like an hour or hour and a half. And they usually, like in 90% of the cases, they just speak about how miserable their life was when they were a startup founder, and how nothing worked for years and years and years and years, and how they're failed again and again and again, and how they thought their company is dying every single night, and how they're like, we're waking up in a the pool of their sweat, and stories like that. And they sort of share these semi-personal things that they would not share sort of publicly. And there's a rule that you should not sort of translate publicly anything that was said on that event. And for some reason, these stories are usually very inspiring, and everyone can relate, and they also teach you something. And that's probably the key piece of YC experience, that one meeting that happens every week. And there is another key piece which happens, I think, every second week, which is called group office hours, where all the batch companies are divided into these groups, because batches are big. They're like a couple hundred companies now. So you have a few dozen companies in one group, and those companies meet and just discuss briefly their progress over the last 2 weeks, and ask questions. They meet with their group partner, someone who's saw the billion-dollar company before, and they ask questions and they get responses, and sometimes they help each other, and they create these bonds and connections between these companies. So this is very helpful. So that happens, and that it takes maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours of your time every 2 weeks. And then that's basically it as far as the key program goes. Besides that, you can appoint one-on-one office hours, these 20-minute long meetings with your group partners. Well, at least that was the case when I was through YC. I know the program has evolved a lot. Maybe we'll hear from other people today how it is today, but it used to be so that you can appoint any number of these meetings with any of YC partners and just discuss whatever you're interested in and ask their advice. And so we use those as well. And then in the end of the program, there is basically maybe 3 or 4 days where you are preparing your pitch deck, and you're training to pitch. And then there is a demo day. That's all. There are no like lectures on how to build your deck or how to do this and that. This is all up to you to figure out. So they only give you sort of the resources to do that. And basically during this whole program, as I've already said, the most intense interactions were with these group partners. And every time when we had this meeting with our group partner, we had this feeling of a Navy SEAL training where we're getting basically kicked in the butt all the time. And at some point, Michael just said, it's like, how much time is it going to take you to build? And we're like, well, we think we'll get it done in like 2 to 3 weeks. And he's like, what? 2 to 3 weeks? Oh my gosh! Like an adequate programmer would do this in 1 day. I would do this in 1 hour. Get out of here and don't get back until you build this feature. And I'm getting second thoughts that we should not have accepted you into the program. This is so bad. And we felt so bad about this, and we actually executed like 10 times faster than we thought we will. And this was this Navy SEAL training feeling that we had through all the YC. We had our butts kicked all the time, And we had these questions like, why are you still not launched? Why are you still not, doing this and that and that? Why are your sales not growing? Like, get out of here. And I think that was a very powerful part of YC. So it was plenty of time to do work between those ass kickings. Yeah.
Another question we have from Sergey. He's asking advice on filling the application and going through the interview. Of course, we understand that it's been a long
Sorry, say it
time.
again.
Yeah, advice on filling the application to
Okay.
YC and going
Yeah.
to the interview.
Well, I mean, this is this one thing when we are like first-time founders, we're trying to optimize our pitch and we're trying to optimize how we fill out the application form and so on. But what we should be actually trying to optimize is our business, our actual plan of doing business. And that's, the application form has the questions that if you don't have good answers to them, maybe something is wrong with how you're planning to do your business. So my key advice is just try to build as good of a business as possible, and then answer honestly. Don't be fake. Like, be truthful to yourself. And this is actually a very difficult skill to develop, because so much of stuff that surrounds us is just this marketing bullshit. And being like honest to yourself and being truly who you are, and being sort of proud of it is a very important skill for founders. And this is, I think, something that YC appreciates. If they can see it through your application, I think that will improve the chances.
Was it, in your case, offline interview for half an hour, or was it shorter?
I think it was like 10 to 20 minutes. It was like very quick, sort of stream of questions, one interrupting another, and we had to answer very quickly. It was like that. I know they've changed some of the interviewing processes though since then, and they're doing it online a lot now.
Yeah. We have another question from Vitaly. He is asking about the AI and whether AI investment hype is over already, or should we expect a lot of AI startups anyway in the batch?
Yeah. Well, it's a good one. I think, asking about AI in 2024 is very similar to asking about, software in late 90s, or asking about the internet in 2000s. Like, everything is AI. It's like saying that you're building an AI company is not saying more than you're building a software company or you're building an internet company. Like, if you're not leveraging the latest developments in AI, maybe you're doing something wrong. So obviously AI craze is not over, and obviously there are so many opportunities, and we're very early on in terms of, it's like the internet in 2000s, literally. Like, think about how much has happened in the internet over the last 20 years. Much more will happen with AI over the next 20 years.
So I have one last question, but before that, I just want to highlight that we truly appreciate your time joining us today, and thank you for being a good friend of Mission Possible. We heard a lot about one-liner of YC startups. Can you finish with one-liner about YC? What is YC to you?
YC is a training program and a community for some of the most successful startup founders in the world.
That's excellent. Thank you, Yaroslav, for being with us. Really appreciate you helping us to spread the message about YC, inspire and motivate others to apply and to follow the path.
All right. Well, thank you, Sviat and Mission Possible, for doing this. You're doing incredibly important work. And a long time ago, I wrote an article for INUA on YC. So for those interested, you can look it up. But good luck, everyone who applies. And hope you get through. We really need more successful entrepreneurs in Ukraine and globally. So good luck. Thank you.
Great. Goodbye, Yaroslav. And
Bye.
we are smoothly transitioning to our next guest and next speech from Roman Sebastianov, who is with us already. I can hear you, Roman. I can see you. Excellent. So Roman is the founder and CEO of Atomic, as you can see from the image, right? And we are happy to have you, Roman, tonight with us. And actually, good morning for you and your team. I will just give another quick remark to our audience that please do ask questions. Please highlight who are you from which company or startup. And we'll get some of the questions to Roman after his speech. So we now have 10-15 minutes for you to tell a bit more about your YC experience, why you applied and what it gave to you. And then we'll proceed to questions. Thanks again for coming.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for this opportunity to share my story. I'm super honored to do it today. So my name is Roman. I'm founder and CEO of Atomic. And I'm born in like lower middle class family in Khmelnytsky. I at the school get interested into software engineering. And after a couple of years, I moved to Kiev as software engineer working in one company. And after that, I met an amazing girl in Tinder. It's been like just like regular life of regular boy, and so on. So with this girl, she's named Stacy Pavlishina. You would meet her later today. We decided to launch a startup together. We did one, it failed. We did a second, it failed. And we never actually gave up on our ideas and so on. So after some iteration, we launched a third startup, which actually Atomic. After 1 year working on this idea, we seen that probably it's one of the most successful idea we ever worked, because it's fit our needs. Like it's a global product with a customer around the world and so on. That's what we initially wanted to have. It's scalable, and more important, we seen attraction from the early days. So working 1 year on the idea, we reached a point when we've been making around like $500,000 ARR. ARR, it's annual recurring revenue. And we at that point raised around $100,000 from amazing investors. And at that point, we decided to apply to Y Combinator. So we've been kind of like, we had MVP, we had sales, we had some profits. So we've been kind of like early stage company with a good traction at the moment when we've been applying there. So yeah, regarding our experience, how we apply to YC, I guess we spent around like 2 weeks doing preparation of our okay, sorry, I see the problem with the microphone. Maybe now would be better.
Yeah, it's much better now.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So moving on. We've been kind of like on a we had some traction and investors, and we spent around 2 weeks applying to Y Combinator, basically preparing our application. And what we did, and if you thinking to apply to YC, it's a good time to take a pen and note step by step what I will say, because like it's really very working framework, and many other Ukrainian founders did the same thing. So first of all, we answered the question from their applications. There are around 30 questions. After that, we started doing an iteration every kind of like day, spending 1 or 2 hours to look back on these questions and maybe change some answer, maybe do some additional research to provide more data, and so on and so on. So we spent doing like that maybe like 3-5 nights, evenings, I would say. And after that, we started showing this application to other founders who went through Y Combinator and asking for the feedback. One of them being actually co-founders of PetCube. I'm very thankful for them. They've been giving us advices and helping in that way. And there have been another 5 founders whom we've been able to reach out. One of them, actually, Anton, they eventually, after Y Combinator, they become our investors. So yeah, but we were just contacting about feedback. We spent around like 2 weeks iterating on our application, and after that, we submitted. We've been waiting around 2 months, and after that, we received an invitation email to 10-minute talk, just like 10-minute Zoom call, whatever. It's been during pandemic, and we've been doing it remotely. Right now, I know Y Combinator doing more and more things offline, interviews, the whole program back to offline, and so on. So yeah, after we received the invitation to video interview, we did the same thing. We contacted the same people who help us to review our application to test our 10-minute pitch, answering potential questions. We Googled around 200 questions which Y Combinator asked on an interview process, and we made a spreadsheet where we've been doing 3 different answers on that question. So the first answer will be a 10-second answer. Second answer will be a half-minute answer, and the third answer, 1-minute answer. So on an interview, I didn't need to think about like what I will say. I already know this answer, and I tested them many times. So that's been in preparation. We did around like 6 mock interviews as well. So when we've been asking other founders who went through YC, ask us these questions, and then we've been replying that. Very important, and that you would communicate straightforward and clearly what you would say, not just like thinking and telling not specific information. But if you get asked about like some specific metric, just answer a number. That's what you get in answering. No, not answering like some other thing and so on. So yeah, and with this preparation, we've been able to get into YC from the first time, from the one application. It's very rare. I know many other founders, they apply multiple times. So we've been maybe just lucky or good preparation process, maybe both of things. So yeah, once we got into Y Combinator, as I said, for us, it's been remote. Right now, it's back on the offline, and I've been very jealous about that because, like, in offline, you've been able to hang out with partners, with other batchmates, and like it's more deeper connection. So yeah, right now YC become extremely huge. It's not actually just one building in Mountain View as it was before. It's actually 5 buildings around the San Francisco. So basically YC kind of like a university of the startups where you need to go from one building to another building and so on. So it's really nice experience. So yeah, during the program, YC gave access to, besides the money, right now they invest $500,000, which you receive in one check once you get into the program, on signing a super simple document which called SAFE. You may find this information on their website. And so besides this $500,000, they give you access to multiple different resources. One of the best resources I really love, it's a Bookface. Bookface, it's an internal social network for only Y Combinator founders. There are 10,000 Y Combinator founders who ever been participated. And basically, it's kind of like Twitter or Reddit, just only for Y Combinator founders, and allow it because there are extremely a lot very rarely publicly available information about like how one company fundraised, how another company sold, about some special sales techniques. Yura Zaremba, for example, wrote a few amazing guides on Bookface, and I really love read such information. So that's one resource you get access. Second resource, it's actually work at startup. It's basically kind of like a job board for extremely amazing talents who are looking to work at Y Combinator startup, and there are really big database of such talents. And it's available for free to contact them, hire them, and so on. So Y Combinator builds this for YC startups. The third thing, obviously, the program, the motivational speeches with amazing founders. It's like the probably best education you would ever had. During Y Combinator program, we met amazing founders, like founders of Stripe, founders of Airbnb, founders of Deal. We met Paul Graham with Jessica Livingston and so on. So, and a lot of other amazing founders who build unicorns and reached an amazing success. So that's a program. What else they have? Obviously, they have a lot of different guides, like you move into San Francisco, where you should live, how to negotiate something with investors, how to sell, how to pitch, and so on and so on. Basically, on almost any startup question, you may find an answer from their internal documentation. So yeah, that's basically all kinds of different resources. But the most my loved feature of Y Combinator is basically access to the community. So community is basically other founders who went through the program. And when you inside this community, I'm able to get a phone number or email of any other founder, and basically being able to ask them any questions or requests for the intros. And this is extremely valuable, because basically through Y Combinator community, you would be able to reach anyone in the world. So a year ago, I had a situation when one of our Swedish investors who've been working with the Swedish government, they decided to buy 1,000 Starlinks for Ukraine, donating from Swedish government to Ukraine. But like, obviously, if you buy in such big amount of Starlinks, you cannot just enter any shop and like, give me 1,000 Starlinks. You probably need to go directly to the factory and make a contact and so on. So I posted about this on a Bookface, and in one day we got intro in Elon Musk to like make this 1,000 Starlink available for Ukraine. So that's an example, just one of the situations. We had like many of such situations. It's just one example how you can use this community to get some meaningful result for your country, for your startup, and so on. So that's extremely valuable. Oh, I just remind that the last thing I really love from the Y Combinator resources, it's basically they also have a Yelp of investors. By Yelp of investor, I mean like directory of investors and anonymous reviews from other YC founders. So if one investor would ever would do some shit to Y Combinator company, all other founders would know and would never accept investments from such investor if they do some bad thing. So this has been extremely valuable, and every time when new investor we talking with them, I check reviews about them on YC, and yeah, and very interesting. Investors, they cannot read this in reviews about them, and we as a YC founder, we cannot share back to them. So yeah, that's extremely valuable. Probably that's it. So I would say Y Combinator, it's not kind of like a business school or like anything else similar. It's just like big mountain of different resources, monies, connections, advices, information, and so on, which you as a founder, basically everything depends on you, how you would squeeze these opportunities and use for like beneficial growth for your company. So yeah. And basically, it really depends only on you, because I've seen some other founders, from my personal opinion, not using this as much as they should use. But people who use it, they definitely would become way more successful than other companies. And if you would look on any metrics, there are multiple we see did analyze of Y Combinator company and non-Y Combinator companies. So Y Combinator companies, they are more survivable and more successful than other companies, just because access to this resource, because super easy access to this network and so on. So so yeah, I hope I motivate you to apply to Y Combinator. They have 10 days left in current summer 24 batch. And yeah, feel free to ping me if you would like to, if you want me to review your applications. I'm doing it for free twice per year. So yeah, would be super happy to help and answer any of your questions.
Excellent, Roman. Thank you a lot for such an overview of YC. I'm sure that our listeners will apply. I heard that you also refer companies to YC quite heavily, right?
Yeah.
Ukrainian companies. So that is also a generous offer and much appreciated. Probably on top of what you said about increasing the chances for success for companies or startups who are at YC, 2 points that I would like you to elaborate a little bit more. First, how YC help you to get customers and this early traction. And second, we hear a lot about the demo day, where is a line of investors with checks. Is it true, and to what extent you are kind of guaranteed to receive investment during demo day or immediately after?
Yeah, so let me answer on the second question, and then we will go to the first question. So yes, the main goal of the program is to prepare startup for demo day, and after that, fundraise investments. And basically, whole 3-4 months, you working on your startup to make it fundable. When you get into YC, nobody would guarantee that you would raise. But on the statistics, 70% of the startups, they successfully raise on a demo day. So how it was in our experience, we had an extremely good growth during Y Combinator program. And answering your first question, that we got a lot of customers from the YC community, because our product being actually B2B, and we've been selling to other founders. And basically, the core idea of our product is that we connect designers, engineers inside Atomic with an amazing startups. So YC helped us find more customers. And so our traction was, we had $500,000 annual recurring revenue at the moment when we got into YC. And at the end of the YC, we had 1.2 million ARR. So we grow almost 3 times, 2.5 times during Y Combinator. And we had kind of like this hockey stick growth, hockey stick chart. So a hockey stick chart is kind of chart which looks like that, where your revenue grows extremely fast. So at that point, we've been entering demo day, and for us, demo day been extremely successful, I would say, because it's been we had so much attention from investors that we actually never did any other fundraising activities beside demo day. We had 120 investors reached out back to us. They willing to invest into us. Around 50 investors offered us some money, term sheet investment opportunities, and 25 of them. So we've been picking who out of people reached us, whom we think it's a good fit in terms of networking, in terms of some potential collaborations, partnership, not just money. And so yeah, we successfully fundraised $2.7 million on extremely good terms during demo day, and we closed our round just in 3 weeks. It's extremely fast, comparable what I heard. It's like for some companies, fundraising take like 3 months, 6 months, but we did the whole thing in less than 1 month. So it's extremely good position, because you're able to receive more resources and then get back to a focus to a growth, which we actually did. So yeah, YC really helps to get the customers, especially if you're selling B2B product. If you would working on B2C product, it would be harder. So probably YC community maybe not is the best one. But again, if you just starting, you just have an idea and you need 5-10 customers, I deeply believe in even this B2C product, you would be able to find first customers inside YC community. So so yeah, YC very beneficial for getting first customers and raising investment after. Also, the last thing I want to say, having YC label near your startup would also help you fundraise after that, because investors like willing invest more in YC startup rather than non-YC. It's kind of like verification of your success or so, just like early signs for them. So yeah.
Yeah, you were telling about $500,000 in revenue. Yaroslav previously told about 2 million in revenue. And we have a couple of questions from the chat from Roman and Anna. What stage do you think it's best to apply for YC?
Basically, you can apply on any stage. There have been companies with me on a batch from guys who just had like idea invented a month ago and they get into YC. But typically works to say that if you just have like super early and you have ideas, probably you should have some other strong factors why YC would consider you, like maybe you worked at Google or you just on a second year in Stanford. That's a good characteristic about you as potential founders, or so on. Or in our cases, we didn't have such things. So the only one thing we can kind of prove that we are a fundable YC company is to have a traction. And by traction, some companies might focus on the amount of registered users and so on. But I would say for 99 companies, traction, it's revenue which they had. So if you don't have a strong background, you're not finished at Berkeley or Stanford, or you spent 10 years working on a Google special projects, probably just go back to your users and do sales. This would be the best thing to verification of your idea. Also worth to mention that during last year, YC heavily invest mostly in AI companies or companies which use AI as part of their product. So I deeply believe without AI, it would be super hard to get into YC right now. But again, weather change over year to year. And if you're really kind of like mature company with a lot of customers and revenue, so one of the biggest company been on our batch, they've been making 1 million per month. Can you imagine this? Like 10 million per year they've been making. So yeah. So it's really like from idea to like super successful businesses. In Silicon Valley, there are wisdom. If you're able to reach 10 million, you would be able to reach 200 million. So yeah, but even that stage of companies, they get into YC because with YC, it's super easy to do partnerships, sales, and especially investment after the YC. So yeah.
Right. We also have a question from Alexandra. How did you search for your advisors during the application stage, and whether all of them were YC alumni?
Yeah. So there are two definitions. Who is advisor? Advisor is some person who getting shares from your company for months to months, week over week, advising you and diving deeper into the startups. So we don't have such type of advisors. But if you're talking about like founders who help us during this application process, so we had around 6 people who reviewed us. Luckily, some of them been Asomi customers. That's that's very good advice. I'll give you right now. So if you're doing a B2B product and you've been able to acquire some YC alumni as your customers, which we did, that extremely would be helpful for you to get into YC, because when other founder recommend your startup to YC, there are a question how good you know this founder or this company. And if you don't know me, or you just like ping me in Facebook and so on, I have to answer that. I just know you from a Facebook. I never met you. I never worked with you, and so on. So that would be a low quality recommendation. But if you work it with this company and so on, and when they would recommend you to YC, they would mention, we work with these guys and they are amazing. That's probably one of the strongest level of recommendation you might have. And we had a few of them. So yeah, we had 6 people, some of them being our customers, and some of them being just like Ukrainians founder who just willing to help other Ukrainian founders, like PetCube co-founders and Seed Ventures and other companies. So yeah.
Yeah, we spoke a lot about the different advice that YC gave to you and to startups. If you're to select one piece of advice from YC, what would that be?
Yeah, never give up. So at the last day of the Y Combinator program, they show us a chart of analytics why startup fail. So we've seen such different charts from other VCs and so on, and we see that, I don't know, competitors outcome us, or bad timing, or blah, 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 and so on and so on. But real reason why startup dies, it's only because founders give up. I mean, only founders. Like, that's probably the most important people in the startup. So, and during the startup, it's extremely exhausting process. It's probably one of the hardest job on the planet, because like being a founder from outside, it seems like cool. You receive the like Forbes cover, you blah, 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 #1 startup this, here, you had a lot of investment, sales, and so on. But look at this position from a founder's perspective. You have a lot of pressure from the competitors, from the investors, from internal team, from other just like folks, trolls, internet, and so on. And you basically, every day, you get an attack on on yourself, on your business, and so on. Constantly, it's never ending. 24 hours, 7 days per week, you're getting attacked. And a lot of people just getting exhausted out of that. They burning out. They get in depression. And as a consequences of these activities, you would also start making mistakes. The focus, your focus from a growing startup, building a product, to some other thing, and so on. So yeah, we had a lot of shit, lawsuits with competitors, hacking attacks, and so on and so on. But the word from Y Combinator, like never give up, stuck in my head. And yeah, that's probably the best advice I can share. Just be able to very harsh fight ahead of you. But yeah, it's roller coaster.
Well, final question from our side is, again, we know that YC is a lot about one-liners. How would you frame a one-line about YC for you?
Oh, very interesting question. To be honest, make a one-liner is super hard. We've been iterating on making one-liner for Atomic for years, and we're still iterating on one-liner, and we still have different one-liners for a different audience. So for investor, we would have one-liner. For customer, that would be another. For potential co-workers, completely different. So I would say one-liner for YC, for me as a founder, would be Y Combinator, it's the best place to be as a founder in 21st century. So yeah, that would be the best one-liner, I guess. But again,
Cool.
it was you need to do a lot of different iteration and talk with different people to come up with the best one-liner. It's really hard work, and probably during Y Combinator, probably spends the most of time iterating on our one-liner.
True. Well, Roman, again, thank you for joining. We do appreciate your time and also support that you provide to Ukraine and Ukraine's ecosystem. Pleasure to see you, and I'm sure that your advice will inspire and motivate startups to apply and to get to YC as the best place for the founder to be in 21st century.
Yes. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share about my journey. And I just shared my email with you. You can share with students as well. So if you want to review your application or so, just like ping me over this email. Please don't do it on the last day, because I'm not sure I would be able to like in few hours to do that. Ideally, like give me like few days to do that, but I would be super honored to help you on that journey as other YC founders helped me. So yeah, thanks everyone, and have a nice evening. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Roman. It was great to have you with us. And now we proceed to the panel discussion, which will finalize our YC pathway day to day. And I'm truly honored that we have more YC alumni with us. And I will shortly introduce our guests tonight. So we have Yuri Zaremba, co-founder and CEO of AI SDR, one of the companies that recently were to YC. And actually for Yuri, that was the second time that he and his team got to YC. So Yuri will have a breadth of experience to share and also to see how YC evolved over time. We also have Yuri Rifyak with us, who is the founder of UTeam. And we also have Stacy Pavlyshina, who is co-founder and CEO at Atomic. And I see Roman already changed the place with Stacy. So nice to see you, Stacy, with us tonight or this morning in your case. I will probably start with a rather simple, but at the same moment, complicated question. What was YC for you? And we'll ask Yuri Zaremba to start.
Sure. Glad to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. So YC was a transformative experience for me the first time and the second time as well, right? The first time I had to move from Kyiv at that point of time to California. My wife had to leave her job in Kyiv at top corporation to travel with me because we didn't know how long we're going to be staying. My brother had to leave his top paying job at Booking.com in Amsterdam. Luckily, I was working for Axdraft and living startup life for 2 years before that. So I was just moving to the United States for some time. And I learned what kind of Silicon Valley startups in real life look like, right? What true fundraising can feel like when there is a lot of demand, and how US venture market is different from everything else in the world. And then the second time around, I knew what I was going into, right? But it was transformative again in the level of support it gave me, right? So the first time around, we got $150,000, and it wasn't enough to like run a company for a long time without any additional investment. This time around, they give you $500,000. And when I started AI SDR, I thought, okay, with $500,000, in a case that I do not raise anything else, it's still enough to like run this company confidently for like 2-3 years. And that gave me so much comfort. And the moment I picked up a phone and they said like, hey, Yuri, like, would you like to join this batch? I felt so much support and kindness from the smartest people on earth that it gave me even more confidence to like move ahead with AI SDR.
Excellent. Stacy, going to you. We just heard a lot of stories from Roman about your experience at YC. Can you tell from your perspective, what was YC for Atomic and this amazing 3 months with the cohort, even though a virtual cohort?
Cool. Do you hear me? Hi, guys.
Yes.
Happy to see you all, and it warms my heart that guys who I'm honored to share the panel with, we know each other, we help each other, we help other Ukrainian founders. So there is a community, guys, who are listening to us now. Ukrainian founders are very bonded. Like, I believe one of the most bonding and small but strong community here in YC, trying to boost our ways and to boost more of the founders coming. It's interesting what Yuri just mentioned, that when he picked up the phone the second time, he felt support from those people on Earth. And I remember then how it felt to me and how I described after we were allowed to announce. By the way, guys, you're not like, plan your announcement wisely. When YC calls you, they usually warn you, okay, you are happy at this moment. Please do not leak this to anyone because you want to control your PR narrative and you want to, like, even in Facebook post, be very like, not beforehand. So I wrote about this as being my tribe. So this is how it felt to me. A lot of the times, and I believe for male founders, usually technical people, a lot of times their path is coming from kind of nerdy background or being the smartest kid on the block or being somehow an underdog. It felt the same for me as being more like minority. I usually advocate for women to be more represented in like founders and other backgrounds because it's statistically and businessly, it makes sense. It boosts the results of the companies. But overall, getting to Y Combinator, and now as we're in San Francisco, and as Roman mentioned, it's offline. So we get this touch and feeling of the community. It feels as a tribe to be, you know, where you found your people. You found also those lunatics, builders who somehow are relentlessly and tirelessly building something, and they're a bit crazy about it, and they can mostly speak only about this thing. And it feels very weird in other environments, and it feels very relevant here. So to me, YC is a place when I felt kind of at home with those communities, and plus, okay, opportunities and all the stuff. But mostly people, when I talk to them, I feel less crazy in a way, which is comforting. As Roman was sharing before, I believe founder's journey is very lonely path, and YC is emphasizing that a lot. That it's like it's lonely enough. So the community is the thing that you might use to keep sane, and keeping you sane helps to not give up, which eventually leads to success. Kind of like this.
Right. Going to Yura, what was YC to you, and what impact did YC have on your team?
Right. Thanks for this question. Also, thanks for organizing this event. It's awesome to see so many familiar faces. For me, it's very simple. It was life-changing, like in a very direct sense. And I think like Stacy and Roma can resonate with that, because like what I just didn't buy a ticket back. Instead, I bought tickets for my family to join me in, like my wife and 2 kids. And yeah, and since then it's been 6 years. We live here. Like my logic was very simple. Like I have this principle in life: when serendipity knocks in your door, you gotta open. And I think for us it was a special case, but again, awesome guys should resonate with that. Like it really depends what you're doing. But I think we all resonate with that, right? Because if you sell to startups, especially if you sell to YC startups, on top of all the expertise, like on top of being part of the community, you like this is a no-brainer, right? This is such a huge boost because this is such a warm community. So I can give you one stat, right? Like those of you, I know Yura will appreciate it, and those who did any outbound will appreciate it. So do you know what is the average conversion of positive replies if you do a cold campaign to other YC founders? It's 30%. So you write 10 random CEOs and 3 like asking for something, and 3 will say yes. It's unbelievable. Finally, again, I would like to second what Stacy said about the community of lunatics, right? Like people underappreciate how lonely the founder job is. We are endangered species. We really should hang together, you know, because most of people are not founders, and it's like very irrational behavior. It's like really crazy. Like why you are doing that, why you are taking bets with such low odds. So you really feel like a lonely psycho all the time, you know, when you talk to normal people. And then suddenly you find yourself in an asylum when everyone is a psycho like you. And it's very comforting, you know, just to find your tribe of lunatics.
Maybe to follow on that community, we also heard a lot from Yaroslav Azhnuk today and from Roman Sebastianov about different parts of the program that are beneficial. But in your opinion, why YC is so much more successful than pretty much any other program?
I think, in my view, right, there are a few elements. First, they invented it, right? So accelerators did not exist before YC, right? So they had the longest kind of time to iterate on that. Second, from the very beginning, they focused on selecting really smart people, right? So like that was the number one criteria. Like if Paul Graham and Jessica Livingston kind of liked them and they seemed smart and creative. And if I'm not wrong, like their first cohort or like first two cohorts, it's Airbnb, Stripe, Reddit, and the Twitch, right? Probably missed someone there, but essentially in that first cohort of like 10 companies, you have hundreds of billions of dollars of capitalization. And that's pretty much it, right? Like you pick those 10 people at the first step of your kind of accelerator, you're good because they are your number one advertisement, right? Their success is your advertisement. Their financial success is your financing for like further investments. Their financial success is your success for fundraising additional funds from other investors. And then it starts growing exponentially like as a community. And despite the fact that they were so successful in the first try, they always learn and they always iterate. And like YC of 2024 and YC of 2019 are like two different programs where 2024 is much more tech-enabled, where you can reach more founders faster, book more meetings, fundraise more money, connect more with, like, they were amazing from start and they continued iterating. So that's why they are unbeatable, right? They never stop.
We had a privilege to have your co-founder and the brother Oleg at one of the founders' breakfasts at Mission Possible, and he shared that you applied 3 times with XDraft before, and then got on the first occasion with AI SDR. Can you please tell a bit more about the last experience that you had with online interview and how you got there?
So with the online interview, with AI SDR, I did not expect to get in, honestly, right? Like we applied, it was an idea stage. The only thing that was playing to my advantage was that we were a second-time founders with an exit and we were YC, right? But product's point of view, idea, obvious, like for everyone in the sales space, product stage, non-existent, traction, 0. Right. So we did a good application, right? But I did not expect to be invited. And then the invitation came in on the last day of the decision-making period, the invitation for an interview, when I was packing my bags to have a family vacation in Denmark. So I was taking a call from a rented apartment in Copenhagen. And we jumped on a call. The interview went well. The partners that were on the interview, one of them knew us from before. They asked all the kind of key questions like, what is different with your approach? Everyone is doing that. How are you going to compete? How big is the market? What have you done so far? Things like that. And then they said, okay, great. Like if you were invited, will you be able to join the program in person? Considering that you're in Ukraine. And I'm like, well, we thought it's still kind of remote. No, not remote anymore. Everything in person. I'm like, well, Oleg will definitely not be able to join. I have military draft exemption, so I may be able to travel, but I haven't planned for it. So maybe I will join. They're like, that's too bad. Okay, thanks. Disconnect. again, right, like zero expectations that we will be invited, but I sent a follow-up message saying like, if we're accepted, like these are the time slots that I guarantee I will be present in person, and maybe that helped as well. And of course, in the process, right, like between the email that we received and the interview, I did my usual YC interview cheat sheet process where I have a spreadsheet with like 134 questions, to which I prepare 134 answers that are like one sentence long. And as Roman just mentioned, like I knew all the answers, right? And they were numbers and facts driven, not kind of the best AI platform in the world.
Right. Going to Yura and Refyak this time. So we heard from Roman about 200 questions to prepare, from Yuri Zaremba about 130 questions to prepare. What was your process? How did you prepare the company and yourself to apply to YC? And what pieces of advice would you give to startups that are willing to apply?
Well, first of all, I think that's one startup advice that you cannot get wrong. Apply to YC. Like, no matter what you do, no matter who you are, just apply. Okay? It's 3 hours of your time, like in total, and you may as well get in. So, and it's like you either win or you break even. Even if you don't get into it, like the whole structure of application is so well prepared. You know, there is this saying, I think it's like Bertrand Russell, right? That the right formulated question already has half of the answer in it. So it couldn't be more true about YC application. So I kind of follow the same logic, you know, like if you're doing business, right, what you're doing actually is betting all the time. You're trying different things. Most of them don't work, but you don't need all of them to work. You need one thing to work, right? And it kind of puts you on the next step. So first time we didn't get through, like, and I really kind of wasn't sure if we should apply second time, because for the same reasons most people are, like, we are shitty, unsexy company, something about outsourcing, but really weird. Like, we are some random guys from Ukraine, right? No Google background. We cannot even spell Google right. But you know, how on earth we can get? So for me, it was more like I think it was akin to Yura's experiences he described. Let's just do it, like, without, let's not raise our expectations too high. But I tried just to do the application as different as possible from the first one. You know, like answer to every question, like as different as possible from a very different angle, and so on. Well, also we were lucky because, you know, things started working really well, and we got a good traction between like first application and second application. We grew like 3 times. So I think that's part of what got us in. And yeah, I remember we had, like, not every company had, but we had this before the actual interview. We had a call. It's like when they look at your application and they kind of see, maybe, but we're not sure. Let's talk to founders. And I was at a wedding at that evening, you know, when the call was booked. And this is something you cannot really reschedule. And wedding is something you cannot really reschedule. So I was in a full tuxedo on that call, you know, with like a black tie, like very nice. I still believe that played a role. So guys, you know, if you want some hacks, try tuxedo or try evening, like really nice evening dress, really nice makeup. That will set you apart from all this crowd wearing hoodies, you know. And
So was it your wedding actually?
What's that? No, it wasn't your wedding. It wasn't my wedding. That would be even next level to it. But still, I looked pretty fancy, I remember. And yeah, and then we got to that interview. I remember Sam Altman was the guy who was interviewing us, even though it wasn't expected. Like, you know, it was still in that big garage in Mountain View. I heard they are now using it as a warehouse, but now it was actual office, and, like, you know, it's just a big space, nothing much there, and like a couple of coaches and a couple of founders biting their nails on those coaches. That's all. And like and there are rooms where you do interviews. So like just before we come in, I see Sam Altman with a giant laptop half his size comes inside, and like they add, you know, name to the panel of interviewers. And when we got in, like Sam Altman asked one question, like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, how does it work? Because we are used to this question. It's like usually people don't understand. It takes 3 times. And he sat like with his, you know, legs on a chair and started typing frantically something on this giant laptop. And we were absolutely sure he is typing our rejection letter on the spot, just not to waste, you know, more time. And it's like, you know, you're saying something and you're looking at what the hell is he typing? Because like when they reject you, you get email. When they accept you, you get a phone call. That's the thing. So we were absolutely sure we rejected. So we went to a lobster place. Then it turned out one of founders is allergic to lobsters, so it all went even worse. And we're super blue, super down. We like driving our rented Prius, you know, back to our hotel in San Francisco through traffic jam. It's like one of the lowest moments of my life. And it's, you know, all this traffic jam. And at this moment, the phone rings. And I know that is only one place, because I just bought this SIM card, you know, in the US for one purpose only, to put it in our application. So it's only one thing that can be calling. So that car turned into a place of party, you know, they were yelling, banging, like we actually broke something inside of the car. So I got like $100, you know, to repay it from Turo later. But yeah, that's our story.
Yeah, sounds exciting and terrifying at the same time. Stacy, going to you. So you did amazing preparation for the application for an interview, but then you have an actual interview with Sam, Michael, Gustav, and all these, you know, stars and legends. How do you cope with nerves, you know, understanding that you have this life-changing opportunity in front of you, but you got 10 minutes or even less?
Oh, I was feeling so deeply for what you were just sharing, you know, these personal moments. It looked a bit similar for us. It was the lowest before we got called like really, really early in the morning, late at their night. So we had no hopes that someone is still processing us in San Francisco. I had 2 jokes. So internally, I prepared to reply that when you ask why YC is so successful, internally, I'm sure why, because they were founded by a strong couple. But that's an internal joke. Other than that, they were the first, and they were founders friendly to this day. So what you can just notice, they are run by their alumni to this day. All of the partners are like alumni, and those who are now invest and run the organization were one day the early founders, which is great. To second point about preparation, you know, I love this analogy coming from sport. Then the more I train, the luckier I get. It's a lot of times the story about us. So it's just founders are, I believe, a lot of times underestimating preparation, and all of our cases back this up. And again, Ukrainian founders, you need to understand that for you, preparation is even more a must, because you need to overjump for example, local founders who are pitching since they're going to kindergarten, I don't know, since they're 5. And as Yura was sharing with his daughter, they're even taught to pitch how they want a dog or a cat, and they can pitch to their parents since they're children. And now we need to pitch the startup in this environment and win. 10 minutes, the most stressful in our lives. We were preparing, so mock interview helped a lot. I can't imagine doing this without preparation. It's better if you know your stress response beforehand. You should, and how you are working around that. I usually freeze. I become the stupidest person in us when I'm very, very nervous. And like my hands are shaking. I'm really like not the best material. Like my frontal cortex is out. I'm like stressed, limbic system. But again, if you know how to work with it, you can prepare yourself. Do some exercises. Know your stuff. For me, preparation really calms me down when I do know my answers, when I repeated this a few times. And also, worth mentioning, it was pandemic, so it was remote, so it was late night for us. I was fucking tired of nerves. I was just like, it's 2 a.m. in the morning, I can't do this anymore, so whatever it goes, it goes. But still, preparation and knowing your stress response and working around that. It can be something physical, it can be any other exercises or a short thing that might calm down your body in a way that your brain will be back, because you need your cortex, the thing that actually analyzes and executes. And this only works when your body is regulated. So whatever you have, maybe you meditate or doing breath techniques, but whatever it works for you to regulate, do the same thing that you're using when there is air alert, for example. It works the same for me.
Right. Going to Yura from AI SGR, we were told that one of the core questions that you received from YC was, who is the boss for your team? Can you tell how the interview went for you? Of course, understanding that it was second time, so you are the most experienced YC alumni.
Yeah, no. So both interviews went in a similar way, right? So we prepared in a similar way. I stressed in a similar way. I primed myself, right? It's an American word for that, with very kind of like high energy music. And then you just go there and you be knowledgeable and prepared, right? And yes, sometimes they ask it like, who's the boss? And they did ask it when we were going to the interview with Extract. And Oleg and I had a question prepared saying that like, I am, right? So that's pretty much it. And the reason they ask it is because, as Roman mentioned, like founders giving up is a key reason for startup failure. But second to that is founder breakup, right? And usually that happens if you can't make a decision. And sometimes it happens that you are strongly in favor of one position, and then your co-founder is strongly in favor of another, and you have 50-50 equity split, right? And then CEO has to have a casting vote. And the biggest red flag that happens when founders like come to the interview, one is that only one of the founders comes, right? So they don't come together. It's always a bad sign. But second one is when their title is co-CEO, right? That's also kind of huge red flag.
Right. And we also see that YC evolves over time, new location, new fund, new ambitious. Can you probably tell what are the main differences from previous experience with Xdraft and recent experience, and what you see for the YC in the next couple of years?
So from what I understand, right, so with Garrican, YC is trying to go back to its roots, right? So YC has been growing in batch size for a long time, right? So Winter 19 was like 200 something companies. And then afterwards it was 300 something. And then at some point it got to like 400 companies in the batch, which is a lot, right? They also had a growth fund, right? That basically started investing tens of millions of dollars in some of the most promising companies to kind of maintain the share. But that diluted the main core and soul of YC, which is focus on early stage founders, put them together in like closely knit groups and make them help and compete with each other at the same time, right? And this is what kind of Garrican is doing now with YC. So they are back to smaller batches, like 200 something companies in this batch. But what's most important is that they were broken out into 4 groups, right? So 60-ish people, 60-ish companies in each group. And the number one rule is that groups cannot kind of cross path, right? So essentially, you have one big YC program, but essentially those are like 4 separate 60 company YC programs ran by their respective partners, right? Michael Seibel stopped being CEO just like a month ago because he said that, hey, I want to allow partners of each group to run their kind of groups by themselves and design their batches by themselves, right? So this is coming back to those times where YC dinners was Paul Graham cooking dinner at his home, at his kind of dinner table with 20 people. I think this is a great move because this is what made them strong in the first place. And they made a much bigger focus on kind of batchmates connecting together, right? I know many more batchmates from summer 23 batch than I knew in winter 19 batch with Axdraft. So yeah, I think that's the biggest change that is happening. But obviously infrastructure, technology, terms, investors, all of that is growing all the time. But as on a concept level, this is the biggest change.
Indeed, and you know, you participating for the second time is of course a seal of excellence for the program, and frankly, looking at different programs in Europe and in US, there is no question what is the program to apply, or at least to try to apply, right? And we have quite a lot of founders who are looking at you now, saying that okay, you succeeded, you at YC, you increased your chances for survival, you got customers and investors. Can you just sum up maybe from each of you a couple of advices, both on inspirational side, but also on a practical side, what founders should do now to get to the next batch of YC? Let's start from Yuri Rifyak.
It's a good question. Look, getting to YC shouldn't be a separate goal, right? It's a means, it's not ends. Your end is building a successful company, right? Or you can go even further than that, like living a fulfilling life, which for some of us lunatics, as has been said before, involves building a successful company. YC is a very easy way that again is very easy to try, that will potentially give you a head start at least a couple of years in that. So in my opinion, like it's very similar to, you know, I also do fiction writing. So I can compare with this, but it's very similar. Like you just write because you cannot not write, right? Otherwise you will explode with all these words inside you. So you just have to write. But after something comes together and you finish it, you just send it to magazines, you know. Then you write another thing and you send it. You write another thing and you send it. And time after time, it gets accepted and published. So same thing. You just do your business, you build your company, and you apply to YC every time you can. And if you get accepted, you know, great.
Stacy, back to you. What piece of advice would you give to founders to start doing immediately after tonight's conversation with us?
A lot of things to say. I relate to what Yura said about if you're a founder or like builder, usually you cannot not build, and it will just eventually still come from you and explode. A few advice I would say being more like inspirational / tactical. First is, as Ben Horowitz is saying, there is no other way to be a CEO and to learn, unfortunately, how to be a CEO rather than do the CEO job. I believe it's the same with being founders. Just first be founders. And second, to me, a lot of times, sports analogies are very relevant. As YC are saying, being a founder is getting punches and getting kicked all the time and then getting back to a fit. So this is what Roman was also sharing. It happens all the time. And for you, it just start building your resilience early on. Mental resilience, body resilience, how to work that hard, that long, because it is a marathon. And as guys mentioned, I see it just the part of the journey again, it's just like entering the university. Eventually your goal is beyond that to get an amazing career or job path or build a company. And YC is just a tool. So please do not look at this as as a success, as you mentioned. It's not at all, and it guarantees nothing, but it just backs up your chances. So being resilient means that you will process and digest a lot of no's. And even if YC is telling you no with this batch, what you should do is say like, it's not fucking stopping me. I will keep doing my thing, or I will keep iterating to become better. So this is kind of resilience that I suggest you to start building. So then you can prove YC the whole world or whatever to be wrong if you iterate and be persistent enough, kind of like this.
Yeah. Yuri, any piece of advice what to do from your side?
Yeah, I'm gonna be very pragmatic here, right? So first, learn English. You have to be very confident to pitch, talk, sell in the United States. I have seen a very disappointing lack of it in Ukrainian founders who try to apply to YC. So you have to be great, right? You have to feel very confident to be successful in YC and in the US in terms of sales. Second, go to YC Startup Library and read, right? Like when people ask me for startup advice or like, oh, how do I do this or how do I do that? I usually send them YC Startup Library links, right? And you can just Google it. They have amazing content, different formats, different length. You can learn a ton. After you kind of learned what they look for, how to sell, etc., go sell. Go talk to people on LinkedIn, on email, on the streets. Try to sell your product. If nobody's buying, maybe you're doing something wrong. Maybe you're pitching wrong. Maybe you're not asking the right questions, right? Ask questions, right? When people say, no, we're not going to buy this. Why? What is missing? How are you doing this today? Interesting. Like, what are the problems with your existing process? Yes, definitely. Paul Graham essays. Like I read all of them. This is amazing. Like this is about startups, but it's also about thinking patterns. And definitely like best kind of bedside book you can have as a startup entrepreneur aspiring to get into YC. And then in the end of the day, right, make sure that with your learnings, with going and selling your software or whatever it is that you're doing, your key metric, which usually, as Roman said, is annual recurring revenue, grows. If it's growing 15% per month, you have a good chance to prove the case that you have something people want. And that's what YC is looking for. So yeah, build something people want.
I love it. Basically, the advice is to learn English, read, and also sell.
And sell.
And not really YC related, but business related. So do the business first. We have time for a couple of questions from the chat. And I see one from Vitaly, who is asking how YC looks on the EU or Europe focused startups. Please, anyone from you who would be willing to take on it.
I'm happy to comment. So it's not about where you're focused, it's about the size of the market. If you are Europe-focused startup after a $10 billion European market, great. If you are a European-focused market after a $1 billion market, not that interesting. So it's about market size, not geo.
Anything to add from Stacy or from Yura?
I would just agree. YC has their own, what they are known and appreciated for, to have standards to make them easy and accessible for everyone. And then just do not invent the wheels where it's not necessary. So for European founders, mostly it's just, are you ready to play by the rules that they're designing, mean like standard incorporation here and doing all the stuff? Because eventually I think you will be building for bigger markets and more consolidated markets. So mostly it's still targeting YC. US. This is what YC is usually going after. So just embrace the best practices. Do not invent your own. Because I just reviewed a few weeks ago, application from Ukrainian founders being now already based in SF, living here. And in their application, answering the question, where is company now and where it will be after the batch. They're going now San Francisco, after the batch Estonia. And I'm like, what the hell is that? So no, in other order, please, in other order.
Yeah, my 5 cents on European market in general is like, one peculiar thing about European market is that it is common market and it isn't common market, right? So one common mistake that founders make when they try to assess the size of the market, what Yura has said, they try to look at all Europe, entire population, all companies. But in Europe, one weird thing that exists is different languages. And these languages are de facto barriers, right? You have German LinkedIn, Xing, you have French PayPal, you have Spanish speaking Amazon for a reason, right? Because like languages are the barriers. So the more accurate estimate would be, if you kind of segment it by language and you focus on the language segment, it can span across several countries, right? Again, English language is the winning strategy usually. But if you have specificity, for example, I spoke to a founder also like helping with their YC application that are doing tour guides. And they traditionally, their markets are countries like Italy, where tourists go, or France. And there is a lot of local tourism, there is a lot of that stuff. So they like, so for them, it's like more relevant to do it in a different language, maybe even Chinese or Japanese language, right? Because their target audience, which is coming to Italy and France, like a huge amount of them, and the fastest growing segment is Chinese speaking. So that's just one thing to keep in mind.
All right. We have a question from Alexandra on YC Startup School, which is publicly available. Basically, would you recommend it for any founder?
Sure. Like it gives you all the basics and helps you understand the principles, focus yourself right. Interestingly enough, Angstrat got into YC after startup school. At that point of time, I remember that Winter 19 batch was 33 or 40% after startup school founders.
For sure,
Right.
the same for us. When they introduced Startup School, the first batch, it was also vetted. So now it's just everyone learns from their public materials. Before they were vetting companies who can learn and be accepted to this batch of the Startup School. We were accepted to the first batch 2 companies ago. So again, it's all about iterations. And for me, it was like I still remember this very vividly, sitting in very tiny apartment somewhere, high-speed train, how to say, скоростной трамвай in Kyiv. And like, this was my window to San Francisco, where the partner, already successful alumni, was doing and moderating the startup school and helping us with our first ever idea to get the understanding what the startups are all about. And it's very helpful. Definitely use it, watch it. It's just, again, about preparation. Read, learn, watch, and do your homework before you ask questions to real humans, so you're not underestimating or taking like their time for less than you can get. The last joke about that, I remember the last call at Startup School. I'm talking to our moderator, already a successful founder who is Y Combinator alumni. And as now we're allowed some personal questions, I decided to ask him, do you happen to watch Silicon Valley? Because this TV series at that time was kind of like discussed. And he just freezes for a moment and he goes, no, not really. I have a lot of this in real life. I really do not enjoy watching this. And at this moment, I was like, it was so bizarre to me. I was like, what a weirdo, like, life and TV series, it's humor, you can just relax, chill, watch some TV series. Now living this through, I can so much relate and understand. So yeah, there are humoristic genres, there are other genres, but study that.
So I think, yes, the Stasis and Roma's experience is the most relevant, because that's where, that was the pre-YC step for them. I remember there was one season after our batch when they had a very different configuration of startup school, when we had mentor. They don't have it anymore, by the way. So I think they only did it once. I was a mentor then. I had like my own group, and I really missing these times. So you're saying Garytown is bringing good old days of YC. I hope it's not only like excellent lasagna for dinners. It's going to be like startup school too. So that's where I first saw Stacy and Roma. They had a different name back then, hard to miss. They changed it since then. Yeah, but even now, even without mentors, I don't think there exists a more extensive and comprehensive library of relevant, vetted for, bullshit checked startup material in the web. Compared to library Y Combinator or startup library, I think it's startup library Y Combinator.com. You like really just go there, read, watch videos, whatever's your vibe, and you cannot go wrong with that.
Absolutely. That also what we see is that there is a lot of content available publicly for free. It's up to you guys just to go explore, learn, listen to people, and progress. I would say that we had a really amazing 2 hours about YC, and now I will give the floor once again to our panel for a final word to startups from Ukraine who are now with us, looking at you, being a bit jealous, I believe, but also probably motivated to get to YC. We'll start from Yura Refiak, then Stacy, then Yura. And please, final word, whatever you want to say about YC, and a final word to startups that are with us.
Starting from which Yura, just in case?
From Yura that is currently speaking, from you, Yura.
By the way, I hope those of you who happen to be on Zoom between our 2 pictures didn't forget to make a wish. And even can guess what this wish could be, right? Given the deadline for Y Combinator in 10 days. One thing just to keep in mind, I know a lot of people will disagree. I like the sports analogy for different reasons, right? Like sports is a very good metaphor for basically not taking anything too seriously, right? It's a game. You train, you miss most of your shots, you fail most of the time, and it's fine because in a couple of minutes the game ends, you step back to your normal life, and it's okay. You are like so much there, but then you step back and you're fine. Like guys, we are the same Ukrainian schmucks as you are, right? Like absolutely. We raised on the same dirty streets. We were listening to Territoria A, the elders of us before, and so on. We just got lucky, but we got lucky because we tried, right? We just gave an opportunity for this luck to happen by submitting this application. I think all of our stories, right? Like Yura submitted 3 times before, like Awesome guys, they started with startup school. We were like probably the least sexy company in our batch period. But it's like you don't have to be special. You don't have to do anything special. If you do your things right, you apply, like chances are you actually build something interesting. So believe in yourself, as cliche as it sounds, but it's kind of thing we almost forget because we are not built for believing in ourselves, right? We are built for survival, and sometimes things that you should do in life, they go against your evolutionary instincts, and that's for me always the hardest part about entrepreneurship. You have to go against your guts, against your impulses all the time.
Stacy, to you.
So I believe I will continue the Yura's line about we have the saying in Ukrainian that сміливі завжди мають щастя. Власне, those courageous, they have the happiness. And I believe it's tied to sports analogy. So you try, you got beaten up, you then get back, you try again. And I just have a few things regarding what we're now all going through, as Ukrainians, because because of it, when Yura mentioned about one wish, I immediately thought about a different one, not the YC related one, but about different one. We're all going through amazing struggles, much bigger than we are and our companies are. And in this analogy, what is important to not lose your senses is to connect with your true self in a way that you understand your motivations and the sacrifices and level of those that you are willing to do. And what I mean by that, we try to highlight to you guys today that startup job is not that fancy, but also lonely, hard, and like takes some sacrifices and other stuff behind. Same as any victory, and the chances are very small. So it is very helpful when before starting and jumping to the big startup game, you sit and deeply analyze, better with your partners, better it be the deep and honest work on each side of those who are building with you early days, why you're doing this, and getting to the depths of this motivation. And oh, I just pray for you, and it not be for some ego reasons or build some, I don't know, personal brand or just be rich, because there are so many either ways to become rich, and YC are highlighting this a lot. So if you just want to make money, it's like startups are one of the worst ways to do that. It's actually true statistically, emotionally, psychologically. It's the path that mostly leads to depressions and burnouts and exhaustions and companies closing. If you see the numbers, I'm not just like trying to scare you, but just trying to show the other part of this kind of trenches. In a way, it's dirty. It is hard, and the earlier you start to prepare yourself for this, the easier this game starts for you, because even if not taking very seriously, it still hurts. You know, people like letting go of people or other challenges, it still hurts, even beside the pitch, even stepping in your normal life. And I believe with founders, mostly there is no normal life. There is still like you're playing almost every minute because it feels like you're part of you. The company feels as part of the founder. So just think before going to your pitch. Are you deeply enjoying the game? Why are you here? What do you want to bring to the world? Why it matters to you? Why in the darkest of days, when you will have the hardest of choices, why you will keep doing your company and keep being loyal to your people. When, for example, things like war are here and there are different motivations and there are different like values are reassessed. So I see a lot of times people are just losing beliefs in what they're doing in the face of harder challenges that they appear to face. So YC application is not a challenge at all. They will come later, but it's better if you have your resilience and your fundamentals figure out to understand who you are as a human and what drives you. So then you can embrace those challenges as a whole personality rather than being driven by something hollow and shallow, kind of like this.
Excellent points, Stacy. Yura.
This is awesome, right? So Yuri and Stacy just like inspired me to go start another company. So I really appreciate it.
I see Oleg's face now somewhere in the background.
And I know you're co-founder for the next company.
Yes. Well, you know,
You're raising?
am I raising? Probably. Yes. So here's the thing, right? Apply now, right? As we all mentioned many times, best experience you can have as a startup founder, especially non-US startup founder, changes your life. It's difficult. It's very difficult, right? Like this is why there are not many companies. They accept 1 to 2% of the applicants, but getting in increases your chances to become a unicorn to 5%. 5%, right? If the overall kind of stat is like under 1%. So it's a huge improvement. And what inspires me personally, right? So I'm in Lviv, right? So I'm in Ukraine currently. And what inspires me personally is that if you are able to build a company that's legendary, right? YC is a place to start it. And building a legendary company will elevate Ukraine as a country, right? Because legendary companies make a lot of rich people, right? Stock options, things like that. inspire examples, create ecosystems. And the more of us give it a shot to create those legendary companies, the bigger the likelihood to create a legendary Ukrainian company, right? You will not be the first, right? That's another advantage, right? You have spoken and listened to a bunch of people today who can lend a hand and say, like, this is what you should do, this is what you should focus. Don't say that you will be building your HQ in like Estonia. Don't build a product for Ukrainian market. Unfortunately, it's too small for venture funding, right? And a bunch of other things. But all the hard work is going to be on you. But it's worth it because you're not doing it only for yourself. You're also kind of making a huge contribution to overall success of Ukraine as a country. So if you need one more reason to apply, here it is.
This is amazing, Yura, and I really support your words and words of all our guests on the panel tonight or early morning for Yura and Stacy. It was my pleasure to be with you and to hear about your experiences, your feelings, and your kind of stories of YC. I'm sure that we have now founders energized, and they will get to drop the list of 200 questions, 3 answers per question, and get rolling to YC. Finally, lots of gratitude to you guys, really, to give back, to have some time for the community. And as always, pleasure to see you. Thank you.
I have one last comment. Sorry
Sure.
for breaking up the flow. But I am publicly sharing my list of questions, right, that I prepared for both Extraps and I think AI SDR and YC application. So if anyone's interested, just let me know.
Also, following the tide, since guys, again, it's 12 days to the deadline. It's April 22. Like, I'm happy, I think organizers have my email. Like, I am happy to review the application, to jump on a quick call to do the deck. I think we're all doing it here. But I'm just using this opportunity to specifically like advertise my service. So please don't hesitate, ping me.
I would just add shortly to this, as we receive requests, I put my email joining guys. Teams, if you reach out to us, please prepare. Please do not send in strange formats your uncommented applications. It's just, do not make things hard for us. Just make it the easiest way. Google Docs, share the link, double check the link, access is there. We can easily comment. So when we have a few minutes, we can just open your doc and comment, not get back to you, ask for access, forget about you eventually, and so on. Just please be prepared, because otherwise chances are lower that you will get any feedback. And then it will just end up, those speakers were great, but they never replying to me because maybe I'm sending them really weird emails. So just work on that as well.
I would add on that we collected at least some portion of pitch decks, one-liners from startups who are participating. We'll share it with all of you in case you want to refer some startups. And of course, we'll share your contact details, emails to future applicants and hopefully YC badge members. Thank you for excellent evening. I'm again truly honored to spend 2 hours with you and hopefully to motivate Ukrainian founders to get to another level. Yeah, cheers to everybody.
Cheers, thank you.
Bye.